Back in January of 2019, I made a video singing my praises of Monster Hunter World, and that video was my third video. It was kind of bloated and long-winded, and I probably spent a little too much time talking about the personal stuff, but it truly did help me through a dark time. And while there are parts of the video that are very introspective and very intriguing, I know it could be better. In fact, I want to do it justice. That video won't be deleted or anything, but just know this. This is the faster, punchier version. I am doing this because I owe it to Monster Hunter World. While I have had breaks on the game here and there, I have spent over 600 hours on my main account. You heard me right, so that means there is a second account. And yeah, you can see that here. When I was about 350 hours in, I did decide to get some achievements and whatnot on my second account because I wanted to know where the difficulty spikes occurred, because I was introducing the game to some friends that were totally new to the series, and I just wanted it to be a smooth experience for them. So starting over was initially rough, but once I started playing with new weapons, my excitement for the game came back. So in this video, what we are going to talk about are the things I believe make Monster Hunter World stand out from the pack. The gameplay, the 14 different weapons, the ability to make your armor and weapons, the stat nuances, the monsters themselves, how consumer friendly the game is, and last but not least, the music. So without further ado, let's see if I can explain why I've put so many hours into this game. Cue the music. I'm sorry. Wrong game. Monster Hunter World has been compared to the Soul series. Maybe it's because Monster Hunter doesn't hold your hand. It could also be because of the slower pace compared to other games. But Monster Hunter World, this version of the series, I would say this game is the most polished. I have always told people that are not familiar with the series, this is not a hack and slash game. You have to know when to attack, when to dodge, or counter. Monster Hunter World quests primarily run between killing and capturing monsters. There are some quests that involve destroying targets, using ballistics, and fetching items for resources, but you are mostly going to be hunting monsters. These quests typically last 50 minutes. And of course, you want to complete it before the 50 minutes hits, or, of course, you just failed the quest. But as you get further into the game, there are some variables in the time of the quest, but 50 minutes is the standard. So in other words, this means for the most part, you are essentially doing a 20 to 30 minute boss battle. And your only means of understanding how far along you are on the fight is by paying attention to how the monster reacts to you. There is no health meter for the monster. You will get skulls on the map so long as you have been collecting footprints and whatnot and nasty excrements that the monster leaves behind. Then you will know the monster is near death. Speaking of which, scout flies are what guide you to where the monster is, and the more tracks you collect, the easier it'll be to find the monster on the map. You also get a partner in crime called a Palico. They will occasionally heal you, give you buffs, be a distraction, and find items for you. Everyone starts with a slinger that doubles as something you can use to distract or disorient the monster, and you can also use this to traverse the map. But let's get into the weapons for a minute. There are 14 weapons in this game, and part of the magic is that they all play different. Yes, you roll, you use slinger the same as everyone, but once your weapon is unsheathed, the buttons and movement of your characters are different. For example, and I'm doing this with love, because please believe I love Borderlands, but I'm going to use it as an example. It doesn't matter if I pick up a shotgun or a pistol, I will still control my character the same way as you. No one runs slower or faster than anyone else. In Monster Hunter World, it's a little different. Some characters hop to be evasive, others can roll, some just block. Some characters can run with their weapons out, while some can only walk. And to use a solid example within the game, there is a lance and a gun lance in the game. This is the closest you can get to your character moving the same with two different weapons. But now, when it comes to actually attacking and stuff with your weapon now, the animation and combos are totally different. Not only that, one has a couple of moves that work toward you being a more defensive player, and the other one allows you to shoot shotgun blasts at your monster. What I'm getting at is, you could play 50 hours in and decide to change it and say, no, I want to learn a second weapon. This really makes it feel like a different game, in my opinion. It really adds replay value. Again, going back to other games, there is no difference between running around with a sniper and running around with a revolver. You run at the same speed. One can zoom from further distances, and the other can shoot faster, but the controls are identical. And this isn't me crapping on shooters. In case you couldn't tell, I play just about everything. I love games, but it says something to play a game 80 plus hours and decide to switch to a different weapon and then play for another 80 hours. So let's get into the weapon and armor making system. Unlike a lot of other games, in Monster Hunter World you have to craft weapons and armor. That means if you want a particular looking armor because of its abilities, or hell, you just like the way it looks, it's not enough to just have the money to make it. You will have had to kill or capture the monster at least a few times in order to make it. And in some cases that could mean 32 times. Hopefully not. If you really want the armor and weapon of the same monster, I guess that means you're just going to get acquainted with this monster. Now, I will be objective and honest for a minute. This is the meat and potatoes of the game. One of the things I really love about this game is how it will try to assist you in making your armor and weapons. You can make something called a wish list, to where the game will let you know on screen that you have all the parts to make the charge blade you really wanted. Once you have collected enough footprints, the game will tell you what you need to do in order to get the materials you're missing. This could range from breaking the chest plate or breaking the wings. Yes, there is still RNG, and you will have moments a material just won't drop. But this game attempts to help the player and wants to increase his or her chances. If working to make a better armor or weapon sounds like an absolute snooze fest to you, this game is probably not for you. At the end of the day, I think giving people the information they need to realize something is not for them is just as important as someone realizing something is for them. So with that in mind, let's get into the sub-point about armor and weapons, and that is the stat game in Monster Hunter World. The other part of Monster Hunter World is how nuanced and intricate stats are in this game. Your stats are not only affected by the type of armor and weapon you are using, they are also affected by what you eat before combat, consumables during combat, decorations on your armor, charms that you wear, so on and so forth. It's endless, man. And a piece of armor has a skill, and sometimes it could have 2 skills. On top of that, we have a set bonus. And set bonuses can be achieved by having 3 pieces of the same armor. Now, in some cases, you might just need 2. In some cases, you might just need 4. It just depends on the armor. And what I'm getting at here is, the stat game in Monster Hunter World is intricate and multifaceted. In no way am I saying that these are new concepts and ideas. But I do believe when you combine all these unique mechanics that are in Monster Hunter, it leaves you with an experience that just feels very refreshing and robust. So let's talk about the monsters. And I know this is, an important part. If you fall in love with the monsters, you're probably going to dig the game. So most fans of Monster Hunter are satisfied with World. Now there is that group of people that don't, diehard fans that aren't feeling it. And I totally understand and respect that. Nothing is forever perfect. With that being said, I haven't really heard anyone complain about the monsters themselves. And that's because the monsters have been improved significantly. And I don't mean improved as far as like looks or the type of monsters. That's kind of subjective. I am talking how more interactive they are now. Some are aggressive, just like a final boss in a game. Others won't even acknowledge your presence unless you attack them first. Others will give you a warning if you linger around too long. And then, if you linger too long, they're coming for that ass. And at some points in the fight, the monsters will just flat out get tired and they'll stand there and it'll kind of make you feel sorry for them while you're beating the shit out of them. And others will cry and whine like Aqua. Just kidding, they don't do that. Monsters also have parts in the fight where they run away to eat and gain their strength or hide somewhere so they can sleep. There are also moments where monsters enter turf wars, and it is your job to do absolutely nothing. Nothing whatsoever. Just enjoy the show. Please be careful, though, because the monsters are big and can be thrown around, and you can get hurt in the process. And yes, there's even moments where there can be a third monster in the area, which is just absolutely bonkers. But usually the weakest link won't stay for long. He'll know he is not needed in this situation, and the 2 top dogs will duke it out. And being that the DLC for this game came out August of last year, means we have, which I believe it's somewhere around 30-ish monsters, and now that's more than doubled. And there's also different versions of the monsters on top of that. I am telling you, there is so much to do in this game. So the next part of this is for all the disgruntled people, the disgruntled gamers that hate season passes and paid DLC. Monster Hunter World provided hours of content. They gave away multiple DLC monsters for free. And also they gave away some small quests for free. Now I am not talking about like the Taken King size DLC for free, but I am talking about several different monsters were added free of charge. And to give you perspective on what some of these small quests that were added, they were like crossover stuff to help you get armor for your Palico and armor for yourself. And some of those DLCs were Mega Man, Devil May Cry, Witcher 3, Final Fantasy XIV, Street Fighter, Resident Evil. The list goes on and on and on. stuff we are used to paying full price for being completely free is just like mind-boggling. The Monster Hunter World team waited a year and a half to release this paid DLC, which is Iceborne. It was $40 and it was not a tough decision at all for me to pay this. But this was a year and a half after the base game's release. And guess what? It's almost the size of the base game. If you feel there are no games coming up or in the future or even in the present that are quote-unquote consumer friendly in this generation, my son, let me introduce you to Monster Hunter World. My last and final point on this masterpiece is the music. Some of it just sounds like straight out of a John Williams score. It's fantastic. And every area has its own music, as well as every monster has its own theme. So yes, that means the monster you dread fighting, you will know when he is on the attack, because you will hear his music. But seriously, I love the soundtrack to this game. So many hours into this game, and I still find the music charming and delightful. Now, before I go, I do want to point out the few things Monster Hunter World needs to work on. Even though I joke and I laugh about how perfect it is, Monster Hunter World totally has flaws. So the biggest one is in performance. Yeah, even on a PlayStation 4 Pro or an Xbox One X, the game doesn't keep a consistent frame rate, even if you play the game at 1080p. And yeah, that's kind of disappointing. Please understand though, the graphics and the details of the monsters and the environments are beautiful and lush, but it would be nice if the game ran a little smoother. The second biggest offender is how multiplayer works. So I get that they're trying to advertise in and out, drop out multiplayer, but I'd rather just play the game with my friend the entire time than have to wait for him to see some stupid cutscene and join the quest. You know, just let me suffer through the cutscene. It's okay. I'll get over it somehow. It won't kill me. I'll watch it again. Well, I may not have covered everything, but I damn sure covered a significant portion of things that make Monster Hunter World amazing. If you agree with any of the things that I gushed over, please leave a like. Please consider joining this team. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.